Hey, what's good? I'm Kinell and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of classics and new releases from horror and exploitation cinema. And today, I'm having a look at some of the direct-to-video sequels to Hellraiser. Now, Hellraiser as a franchise is known as the one that went really downhill and had a lot of dodgy fucking entries. I mean, when you get to 5, a lot of the films weren't even written as Hellraiser films, they were just retrofitted in. We had a film that was knocked up in a matter of weeks just because they needed to maintain the rights. We got some that don't have Doug Bradley as Pinhead, so there's a big quality drop off. But that being said, the biggest complaint levelled at both of them, and levelled at all of them, and there have been a lot of complaints. These range from on Rotten Tomatoes, these films range from the heights of 20% down to 0% in one case, including one of the ones I'm looking at today. But the biggest complaint that everyone seems to have of all of them is it's just not Hellraiser. It's just not what Clive Barker intended with his original classic. And to be honest, if we look at the Halloween series, Halloween 3 back in the day, because it didn't have Michael Myers on it, that film was reviled as an outlier. People didn't fuck with it at all. But these days it's been rediscovered. If you say Halloween 3 is shit now, people will run in from other rooms just to say, actually, it's one of the best ones in the series. And I think they really should have gone like that. People will come running in the room when you live alone. People come abseiling down the side of your building just to tell you how good Halloween 3 is. Personally, I think it's banging. But it did used to be regarded as fucking shit just because it didn't have Michael Myers in it. A lot of people felt disappointed like that. Friday the 13th Part 5, in my opinion, one of the better Friday the 13th films. But just because of a little bit of a revelation at the end, people ignore the fact that most of what went before it is some of the best Halloween Friday the 13th kills ever recorded on camera. There's no getting around that. It's a good film, but because people consider it an outlier for reasons of pedantry, it was considered that it sucks. So with this in mind, I'm going to try and look again at the Hellraiser direct-to-video sequels and see what their value is if I'm not weighing them against Hellraiser, because that's something that needs to be done. I'm going to be picking up from number 5, 1 and 2 classics. In my opinion, controversial to some, not to others, I think Hellraiser 2 is better than Hellraiser. Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, I'm old enough to remember when that was known as the shit one. But looking back at it, it's pretty banging. I'm ignoring Bloodline altogether, because Bloodline does suck. It really does suck arse, and I've given that one a lot of days in court. Can't get to terms with it. In fact, this is why I haven't seen so many of these ones that I'm going to be looking at recently, because whenever I attempt a Hellraiser binge, I could get to Bloodline and it just kills me off. It genuinely sucks in my opinion. Even the director says it sucks. That's why it's an Alan Smithy film. It sucks anus. If you want space Hellraiser, Event Horizon exists. Fill your fucking boots. So I'm also gonna be doing this in 2 parts, because I seem to have bad memories of a lot of these fucking Hellraisers, a lot of these ones from 5 onwards. Maybe because they just weren't Hellraiser. So theoretically, if I'd have done all of them at once, I could have watched 9 straight hours of Hellraiser sequels to end up with a 3-minute video where I just say, yeah lads, I checked, they're still shit. I'm gonna go for the first 3, ducking off. And the first 3 were all directed by Rick Boter. And all of these 3 were other scripts that Dimension had floating around that got reworked to incorporate the Hellraiser mythos. So with that in mind, let's get into the first one, 2000's Hellraiser Inferno.
All hell is about to break loose again.
What do you want from me?
And this time, the battle between good and evil has a familiar face. Welcome to Hell. Hellraiser Inferno.
No!
Hellraiser Inferno. Yeah, okay, looking at it, I gotta say, whilst I can't argue under any circumstances that it's a good film or a great film, I can say it's alright when separated from the Hellraiser mythos. This one concerns a detective looking into a serial killer called the Engineer, and it's what should we call it, sort of a paranoid detective thing, and there's some quite good bits of Hellraiser mythos and Cenobites and hallucinations and imagery worked in there. There's some stuff that I quite fuck with. Around this time there was a lot, I can imagine the original script this kind of was, because there was a lot of this kind of shit floating around back then, sort of post-7, grisly serial killings, possibly with a supernatural element. Fucking, is the detective losing his mind? Is he more crazy than the people he's looking into? And it's the elements of that they could have lost a bit more, if I'm brutally honest with you. Fucking, there's a noiry voiceover like the original version of Blade Runner or a fucking noir that pops up quite a bit. It doesn't really work for it, takes me out of it, because that's something that specifically shows me that you are trying to do a different type of film that isn't a Hellraiser, and there's not really any kind of plot development with it. It doesn't work. They should have just lost it. But other than that, there's some interesting stuff. I like some of the characters. I like the detective's portrayal of how he starts losing his shit. Some of the scumbags he's got to deal with. All these kind of fuckeries. You know, he really does seem to be losing it as more and more suspicious elements start to be incorporated. But yeah, fucking, if we separate it from Hellraiser, it's alright. And because there is definitely worse of this sort of subgenre, the sort of post-7 shit, as I said earlier. Okay, next up, 2 years later, we've got Hellraiser Hellseeker.
Welcome to the worst nightmare of all. Reality. Which do you find more exhilarating?
It's getting hot in here.
The pleasure.
It's perfect.
I prefer pain.
Well, what do you think?
Hellraiser Hellseeker, yes! This one fucking makes the daring decision of bringing back Kirsty from the first 2 films, then killing her almost immediately. Literally, we're barely out the extended fucking graphics opening credits to put out the running time before fucking her and her husband are headed into a fucking river in a car. Bad scenes all round. Husband survives, Kirsty doesn't. So for the rest of the film, we're following around the husband. There's a, what should we call it, a nice creepy brain surgery bit, and then it picks up a few months later where he's got the same, despite having brain surgery, which I think they need to clear your hair out the way for, he's got the same fucking haircut he has before he went into the river, huge crash, brain surgery, fucking whole skull opened up. But anyway, that's one consistent ass haircut. And the film kind of follows him as weird shit happens. Who'd have fucking thought it in a Hellraiser film? And that's where it kind of gets a bit odd, because a lot of it's to do with sort of women in his life that are sort of vaguely associated, and he's kind of confused as to what their relationships are, because he's got some amnesia from having a fucked up head from going in a fucking river in a fucking car, all this kind of thing. He doesn't really know what's going on, and a lot of the women are very sexually aggressive, implying there's been some kind of involvement with him in the past. But the way it's directed doesn't really fit for a Hellraiser film. Reason for this is a lot of it seems to be in it's almost like what should we call it, like a CSI or something, like what should we call it, an early evening but kind of just before the watershed representation of sexuality. You know, where if they want to prove a woman's sexually aggressive and available, she wears fucking black stockings but never gets her tits out. And there's also very little gore in this, and you know, even like and body horror is something that I kind of want from these things. I mean, if there's one thing that really takes it out of Hellraiser, it's a lack of body horror and a lack of bodies. Because that's Clive Barker's fucking big leather daddy style all over. He loves that shit. It feels almost like they were trying to get a lower rating for it, like aim it at a young adult audience, which, I mean, there was some decent body horror in the previous one, Inferno, but so I don't understand why that shift's taken place when we still got the thing. Now, if we look at it chronologically, this came out in 2002, so we're 1 year out from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake, which sort of, in my opinion, kick-started the torture porn boom at a mainstream level, and Saw, which solidified it. So we're a bit of the way out from that, and like we're still in the post-90s aftermath of Scream, where they were doing lots of things where they'd have like sort of TV celebrities in there, fucking Dawson's Creek type people, Buffy the Vampire Slayer type people who wouldn't do any nudity to sort of sell to a younger audience. It was very toned down from the slashers of that I grew up on. Very toned down indeed. And so that's why this one really doesn't work for me at all, because it feels like an adult story, you know, fucking cheating husbands, office politics, fucking adultery, inheritances, and all this kind of fucking shit that's kind of like adult subjects and fucking the nature of sin and whatnot, but it seems to be directed for a young adult audience, and it just didn't work for me in that context. But yeah, so that one, gotta say, yeah, that one does genuinely, yeah, it's the worst of these, definitely, it does kind of suck. Anyway, and on to the next one in the Rick Boter trilogy, as it were. The Rick Boter direct-to-video Hellraiser trilogy is, where is it? Hellraiser Deader.
You open the box, and your soul belongs to me.
Can't hurt me.
You're not the first to say that.
I'm going to a real-life secret hell world party.
Welcome, Hellraisers. Invitations. But if you need anything, just scream.
Welcome to hell.
Hellraiser Deader. I'm gonna come out the gate and say it with this one. This one is a pretty good fucking film. I rate it. It's not Hellraiser or Hellraiser 2. It's not a big budget, huge camp explosion affair like Hellraiser 3, but as a film, just looking at it purely on its own merits, it's a pretty good fucking film. I fucking had a good time with this. It had a good story, good developments, there was shit happening here. It covers a woman who's a journalist from London, and it opens up with in a room full of nitties all smacked off their heads, smoking a bit of crack and all that. You know, all the themes of indulgence and shit in there early, but in a way that we haven't really looked at in the Hellraiser franchise before. And she heads off on her latest assignment in Bucharest, looking after a club, a cult of people called Deaders that are fucking up to some mischief with a certain puzzle box. Speaking of which, given that it's a puzzle box, it's not much of a fucking puzzle, man. I've never seen anyone pick that up and not open the motherfucker immediately, and I've watched a lot of these fucking films. It takes people 2 seconds to figure it out. I have genuinely had more trouble coming home after a few afternoon pints trying to fit my key into the fucking Yale lock. But anyway, there's some cult shit going on, there's weird shit on the Bucharest underground and all kinds of nonsense. And yeah, obviously, she gets in a little too deep, as these characters always do, starts experiencing hallucinations, visions of her past, all kinds of weird stuff, and yeah, it's pretty well executed. It's certainly a lot, you know, we're back into the territory of having some interesting body horror and a bit of nudity, which we need. So, you know, I think at this point, the torture porn era's kicked in, so they're feeling a bit more get the fuck in there with it, which works really well for it. As I say, I like the plot. There's a few things that, there is one line that absolutely creased me up. At one point, fucking, when she first manages to open the box, 4 big fucking hooks, like, not the little fucking fishing hooks that we get in the first few ones, big bastards on big fucking chunky fucking chains, come flying out the box, grab her by the face, so she's got 4 big hooks in her face. Pinhead appears in the corner in a sort of wise fucking way, and then the line he says is, "Don't think for a moment you are not in danger." She's already got hooks in her fucking face at that point. I don't think thinking that she's not in danger was going on in her head at that particular time. I think she was pretty confident of the fact she was in danger. I know another thing that kind of made me giggle seemed to be a lot of like weird sex smackhead body modification punk cult motherfuckers hanging around on this train carriage, and their leader is this sort of shamanistic dude, and quite frankly he strongly has the energy of Eyeball Paul from Kevin and Penny Go Large. But other than that, it's pretty good. Fucking right at the end, we have a proper good throwback to the original Hellraiser, with someone getting torn the fuck apart by hooks. There's a few bits of dodgy CGI, but I can let that slide, because a lot of the budget seemed to go and shooting things in Romania, which gave it a kind of an otherworldly quality. There seemed to be a lot of shit happening on location, and I give it ratings for that. So, that seems a good point to finish on, because what we have here, Hellraiser Deader, genuinely good film. If you're just going to revisit one of these things, Deader's the one. Look at it with fresh eyes. Don't watch the other ones first. Just go straight into this, and I reckon you'll rate it. So yeah, that's all from me. Kinell. Change it. By the way, I found out there's another channel called Sinister Cinema Reviews. I was Sinister Cinema, and fucking, it's a bit too similar. So yeah, shout out that guy. I can't remember what his name is. So from now on, it's Kinell's Sinister Cinema. Yo, drop my fucking mic. It's Kinell Sinister Cinema. I wasn't going to associate my rap name with this brand, but I need to differentiate it, and you know who the fuck I am. It's Kinell, and this is Kinell's Sinister Cinema. We have still got the socials. Check them out down there if you want to hit them up. You can hit me up at my Twitter, at COLAK. You can hit up the Sinister Cinema Twitter. Follow that. We got it started, about 160 odd followers or something so far. That's at Sinister_Cinema. We got on Instagram, we're at Sinister.Cinema. Fucking, we got the email, which I haven't used for fucking anything yet. That's sinistercinemayt@gmail.com. And yeah, fucking like down there. Fucking, if you've got any opinions on these very, very divisive and in some cases underrated films, drop that in the comments. Let me know what you think. Do you agree, disagree, any of that? Hit that like button, because that really does help me out. Hit the dislike if you so choose. As I say, those buttons do the same thing. Hey, so yeah, subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'm Kinell, this is Kinell Sinister Cinema. Safe.